behavior always happens for a reason. It does not happen in isolation. Dogs, animals, all of us are all working out, if I do X, will Y happen? So behavior doesn't just happen. There's always a reason for it. And you've also got to remember that behavior comes with a cost. So he's in the garden barking at the front door to go out and chase rabbits. So for him, the excitement of chasing a rabbit is worth that bark. Foraging around in a box in my studio is worth the effort because something fun might be found. So dogs are always doing things for a reason. Why? Because that's how they get to live and pass on their genes. You've got to remember that survival matters. When you're an animal, you don't pass on your genes if you don't survive. So working out why you're doing a behavior and whether the consequence is worth it is like a fundamental driver for all animals, including our dogs. And so if you think about the number one driver for any animal is staying safe. It isn't chasing rabbits, it's avoiding the predator. For the rabbit, it's avoiding Percy. Percy's not great with predators, so he's not a good example. But the number one thing that means you go on to pass on your genes is staying alive. So when you think about the function of behavior, safety is above everything else. So when safety is a concern, your behavior is more driven, it's more focused, because staying alive is what matters. And if you think about safety, if you're not safe, it doesn't matter whether you've got dinner. It doesn't matter whether there are rabbits to chase. It doesn't matter whether you procreate, because if you are not alive, you will not pass on your genes. So keep that in mind as we go through this conversation. The number one thing that all animals are trying to do is stay alive, avoiding taking risks that will kill them, right? So staying alive matters. I watched a documentary about disco yesterday. I will try not to slip into a Bee Gees little riff there, but staying alive matters. And that's when, the other thing you've got to remember about dogs is they're really good at doing this equation in their heads, which says, is this behavior worth it? So they're what we call behavioral economists. They're really good at doing behavioral economics. Is the expensive behavior that I'm doing worth it? So the expense of behavior, the two big expenses that come with behavior are the calories it takes to do that behavior and not being able to do another behavior, so the opportunity cost. So if you're barking at the door to go out and look for rabbits, you can't at the same time go and play with your Kong toy. Not that he does that either, but right, you're making choices. So you've got a choice and you're expending calories. So those are the two biggest costs of behavior. Dogs are always thinking through the costs of behavior. Keep thinking about that when you look at whatever your dog does at any time. When your dog sits at the dinner table looking at you, pleading for food, what's the cost of that behavior and what do they get in return? Keep thinking about that. It matters, and it matters for separation anxiety. So expensive behaviors become worth it when the payoff is big. So if you're focused on staying alive, it doesn't matter how expensive a behavior is. If you're going to be dead if you don't do the behavior, then you would pay the ultimate price if you didn't do the behavior. So keeping alive and survival, you will try to stay alive at any cost, as will dogs. Survival matters. And while they're doing these equations, safety, anything that pertains to safety, anything that affects them that way matters more to them, right? So keep remembering that. When your dog does an innocent behavior, any behavior at all, think why? What's the equation going on in your dog's head? Why does that matter for separation anxiety training? Well, because dogs are doing stuff when we leave them, when our dogs have, whether they have separation anxiety or not, when we leave dogs to be alone, they do stuff, right? They do things. They either lie on the bed, that has an expense. It's not very expensive in terms of calories, but it has an expense. Or they might bark, or they might cry, or they might chew. Pop in the comment and tell me what's the sign, if you have a dog with separation anxiety, what's the sign that your dog shows you when you go out? If you've left your dog for longer than they could cope with, and we've all done it, what did they do? Did they bark? Did they chew? Did they defecate? One myth I just want to clear up right now is that some people will say, well, my dog only barks, so it can't be separation anxiety. It must be frustration. Or my dog doesn't chew, so it can't be separation anxiety. Or my dog doesn't defecate. The thing is, the signs of separation anxiety can be varied. So if your dog only barks, that doesn't mean that your dog isn't anxious. If your dog's barking for 3 hours when you go out, that's expensive behavior, right? So tell me, Hannah says, frantic, jumping, crying, barking. Right. Pat says, Jack barks. Nicola, pacing, crying, barking. Rachel, crying, paces and cries. Pacing, that's a really good example of an expensive behavior. So it almost goes without saying, but most dogs, when they bark, particularly when they bark, they're often very physically animated too. Their bodies are doing stuff. You'll see the ones where their paws are going like that. Sometimes they'll wag their tail, by the way. Sometimes dogs will wag their tail when they bark because they're upset. Tail wagging is expensive, but it's very much driven by a state of arousal. It doesn't mean they're happy. They're just responding to an emotion that's just welling up in them. So they're often, pacing is another thing. Pacing is a really expensive behavior. Sarah says, he howls until I get back. Right. And Sarah, I bet he howls the whole time, right? The whole time that you're gone. Even if he didn't, howling, that takes a lot of effort. And you can't do a lot else while you're howling. Chris says, pants, pace, drools. Vicky, my dog barks, whines and cries. So I hope that's helpful to you to see the other things that dogs do. It's not always they just do this or they do all the three things. If your dog is doing something that's problematic when you leave, then we've got our signs that something is wrong. They're not tolerating being home alone. But we're trying to work out, are they not tolerating that alone time because they're frustrated or fearful? So let's crack on with that. Separation is a big deal in the mammal world. If you are a fawn and you are 3 days old in a field and your mum disappears, you are starting to think that that's not good. You've almost got prey written on your forehead. Do they have foreheads? I don't know. But separation for young mammals is potentially life-threatening. So we could very, very reasonably hypothesize that for a dog, it's a big deal when they're young, even as they grow, to be separated. They also potentially are worried about us. I think sometimes we just focus on the fact that they are worried about themselves. They might be worried about where we go. So it would be very natural for a dog to be worried about separation from their family because instinctively, to survive, they need their family when they're born. But lots of dogs will grow out of that and realize it's fine. Yeah, I can survive. Nothing bad happened when people went. However, we've still got these dogs who aren't lying on their beds, who aren't just chilling out when we go. So if you're a newborn pup and you're suddenly separated from your family, barking the whole time doesn't seem like very expensive behavior, does it? Throwing your head back and howling. Those of you who've got a howler, have you noticed how they often just throw their head back as well? I call it the lone wolf cry, and it's very, very indicative of dogs who've got a problem with being alone. But if you're a pup and you think that you're about to die because you've lost your family, you will bark, you will do whatever it takes to get them to come back. It doesn't feel like expensive behavior. So could that be what's going on? Yeah, there's a really good chance that that's what's driving this. They just haven't grown out. They haven't worked out that when people go, they come back. And suddenly the behavior doesn't seem that expensive because it's survival. But what about frustration? Our assumption is that, a dog who's left behind could be frightened, but also might be worried about missing out on resources. What do I mean by that? Well, they might be thinking, when you go out, I no longer have anybody to have fun with here, and I'm not having fun there because you didn't take me with you. So the resource of fun, the resource of food, because you provide my food and my chews, the resource of play, the resource of affection, the resource of access to the outdoors and freedom. All of those stop for the most part, when we go out, right? And some dogs, do they hate that? Yeah, I'm guessing that they do. I do think that they hate that. I do think they have a problem with that. But is that survival? Are they worried about life or death? No, they're a bit miffed because they've no longer got access to resources. So I'm really glad Percy did my little demo for me today. Thanks, Percy. So he was barking at the front door to go out, not barking for me. My door is open here. The door to the living room is open. No problem. Full access to everywhere. He was barking to go out. Once I let him know that he's not going out, that barking becomes pointless, right? So he stopped. He was frustrated because he thought there were rabbits in the garden. He wanted to get to them and he stopped. Now the behavior is expensive because he knows I brought him in here and I didn't open the door for him. Okay, fine, I'll stop. So think about it. Is it worth your dog's while to bark for 3 hours solid, or howl, or cry, or whine, if it's just because they're losing out on a few things? No, it's not worth it. It doesn't make any sense. Now, the thing is, sometimes they get the equation wrong. So they've got this little equation in their head of what I'm doing, is it worth it? What I'm doing, is it worth it? And sometimes they do get it wrong. And they do behavior that is expensive and not worth the while. But they don't continue to do that. They will continue to do it as long as they think the outcome is worth it. And if you're constantly fighting for your life, you will continue to panic and do whatever it takes. So what's the one question that I want you all to ask yourself? Well, it relates to persistency. Not Percy, persistency. It relates to 3 big things, really. How often does your dog display these behaviors? Like, is it every single time, most times, or some of the time? Do they do it for the whole time that you're gone? Do they do it regularly? So even if you say, no, they don't do it the whole time that I'm gone, and they don't do it every time that I'm gone, but there's a pattern, or there's at least, over time it hasn't changed. It might wax and wane, but over time it doesn't go away. Really, if you answered yes to any of those, then you know why you're here. And I wish I had better news. I wish this was all about, hey, it's definitely frustration. You can fix it like this. We're all good. But there is good news. I do understand that many people want to think that it's just frustration, because then maybe you can just let them cry it out or get on with it. Well, I think the really good news is how we approach the condition, even if it is frustration. So bear with me, stay with me, because there's good news in this. Frustration doesn't necessarily, right itself more easily, but it does respond to, the dog being more tired or having their needs met. And if you come back to that equation, if you're not scared, if you're not fighting for your life, the behavior becomes less and less worth it. That's what's going on. And if we're honest with ourselves, we've almost answered the question, is my dog frustrated, by asking the question, is my dog frustrated, right? Because if you're still here after 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or however long you've been wondering, chances are, even just because you've been wondering, your dog's frightened. Do you see what I mean? Because if it was frustration, it would probably have come out in the wash by now. So let's do some good news. Oh, hang on. There was a couple of questions that came up earlier. Somebody said, but my dog doesn't do it every time. They do howl, but they don't howl every time. Well, we don't have to be petrified of a situation every single time. We can be frightened sometimes and less frightened other times. That's how phobias work. They don't always have to be the same strength every time. So I'd like to say that your dog's fine because sometimes they howl and sometimes they don't. The reality of it is your dog howls sometimes when you're gone. So yeah, we need to work on that. And then somebody else says, but my dog doesn't do it the whole time that I'm gone. So let's take that 3 hours or 4 hours. Maybe we've got a dog who barks and paces and then has a break, barks and paces and has a break for 10 minutes. You know what? But I said behavior is expensive and it can be tiring. So often what's going on there is the dog is just regrouping. If you were trying to break out of a prison cell, you might just, if you're breaking out of a hostage situation, that's awful. Let's not talk about that. If you were trying to, I don't know, think of a situation in which we might panic. You know, if we woke up in a night, had a nightmare and thought our house was burning down, even if we were tired, we'd probably give it a good go. But eventually we'd probably stop because we're tired. And then we might give it another go. That's not a great example either. Okay, let's move on. The point being that they just sometimes do need to take a break, and then they come back with renewed energy, because motivation can wax and wane. And another brilliant question that came up is, could it be both? Yes, absolutely, it could be both. And here's why it could be both. It could be both because those of you with kids, particularly teenage kids, have you ever had a situation where they do stuff? There's a particular thing they do. Maybe it's stay out late. And you know you've told them to text you if they're going to be late. And every time they seem to forget. So you just get worried that something's happened because you asked them to text you, right? And do you feel yourself getting frustrated because you're now starting to feel scared because you're worried that you haven't had a text, right? So you feel frustrated and you feel scared too. So the two can happen at the same time. Brilliant questions. Brilliant questions. I'm going to come to those in a second. So where does that leave us? If you're asking the question, you've probably got a dog who's frightened. And therefore, what can you do? Well, also, if you're still not convinced, and if you still think, I still think it could be frustration, here's what I want you to know. In either case, we've got dogs who can't tolerate being either on their own or separated from us. And being on their own means they're separated from us. So we've got dogs who can't tolerate that. We get a bit confused in the dog training world by saying that we can only help dogs with this technique that I'm about to describe to you if they're frightened. Well, if dogs don't like something, fancy terms, we call it a stimulus in dog training parlance, then we can help them be okay with the thing that they either are frightened of, dislike, intolerant of, find unpleasant. How do we do it? Desensitization. We gradually expose them to that thing. So if your dog is truly frustrated, bored as heck, mad as heck because you've gone out and, you know, the fun has stopped, we've got a dog who can't tolerate alone time. If your dog is petrified that you've gone out, he's worried for you, or he's worried for himself, or he's worried for both of you, we've got a dog who's intolerant of alone time. So what do? We increase their tolerance of alone time. That's what desensitization is all about. That's how we approach it. So it's kind of good news, I think. We know how to do this. Yes, we might do things slightly differently. If we do think they're frustrated, we might do more stuff around the edges, making sure that they are played out. They have had access to rabbits just enough. But for the most part, we've got the same approach. All right, let's do questions because a ton of questions came in. But I want to say hi to Noodle the Poodle. Hannah, my boy's 13 and my girl's 14, my two poodle mixes. So let's have a look. Yeah, Rachel says mine used to bark and howl and pace. Nicola says mine used to do that. Yes. Tori, we just do what we can. Tori says I'm worried about going back to work. Just do what you can. If you can, beg, steal, borrow time from anybody to help you out. We do what we can. Deacon says, Julie, I want to thank you for helping to cure my 7-year-old Malamute. Oh, it was a long process and I was close to losing hope. Oh, luckily with consistent training. I love that. Luckily with consistent training, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Hannah, well, this is a lovely question from Hannah. Hannah says, I've never left him, so I don't know. How do I, and Hannah, you're basically saying, how do I test it? Well, here's what you do. If you use a gradual exposure plan, which is desensitization, you just go out for increasing amounts of time. And you can pick up the plans from, for you, my puppy book might be quite good because I've got what to do if you don't think your puppy's scared of alone time but just isn't used to it. You still expose your dog to the alone time, but you'll find that if your dog doesn't have a problem with being left, you'll go up in bigger increments and you'll go quicker, right? So you take the same approach. And the great thing about having a plan, and the plan can be something you get from my book or the success tracker, or if you're in my Separation Anxiety Heroes membership, you can grab my app, or it can be a piece of paper. but know what you're going to do. I can't tell you how important it is that when you step out that door, you know why you're coming back. You're coming back either because your dog does freak out, or you've met the time. You've hit the time that you wrote down. Step 1, 30 seconds, right? 30 seconds is a lot for a dog that's never been left, so maybe start even easier than that. But if you go out just thinking, I'm just going to see how it goes, and what's your criteria for coming back? It's usually, oh, my dog doesn't look good, I'm coming back. So have a time. You feel much more comfortable and you're less likely to trigger your dog if you work to a time. Oh, Deacon, thank you. For any dog mum or dad who's struggling, I highly recommend Julie's book and follow the training down to the T. And one day you will see the result. Consistency. I love that you were consistent. It's easy to give up. Len says, we had multiple dog experts trying to help us, but they all had different meaning about our dog behavior, and we are very confused. Check their credentials. Check whether they specialize in, the thing that you think is going on with your dog. Check whether they're qualified with, a reputable, force-free organization. Yeah, it's, you can definitely get conflicting opinions, it's true. But when it comes down to really solid advice, you then find that most people with true experience and good qualifications tend to come together. Mine just sits at the door, no crying, just waits there. Yeah, oh, Flick, that's really interesting. Well, not interesting, but I'm glad you raised that, because sometimes that can be it too. How long does he wait for, Flick? Chris says, when you're doing the separation anxiety training, would you do little sessions back to back, or should you leave time between the session? If you're on short times, you can definitely do back to back if your dog can tolerate it, because it's not going to take you very long to get through one whole exercise. As your times increase, that's when you want to think about spreading them out over different days. So do one day, one the next day. Take breaks in the week as well. Yeah, going back before the B of the bark, or before the S of the stress. Michelle, I think it's really interesting, and I follow a vet who has a wonderful blog about the science related to all things dogs and cats, small animals, and he's been tracking the research around CBD, and he did a review very recently, just before Christmas, because I think a lot of us are hopeful that CBD is going to be a game changer for conditions like arthritis in dogs, like anxiety in dogs. But at the moment, there's just no research, and that's not for the lack of studies. The other thing that I think is problematic is, and he mentions it, SkepVet is the blog if you want to look it up, Brennan McKenzie, he mentions the inconsistency. So if you take an ibuprofen for a headache, it doesn't matter where you get that ibuprofen tablet from. You know that specific tablet, if you get it from one pharmacy versus you get it from another pharmacy, they might be completely different brands of ibuprofen, but each of those has been tested, and you know that if it says it contains 500 milligrams, it contains 500 milligrams. The thing about CBD oil, because it's sold as a natural supplement in most countries, in Canada it's different, but it's still not available for medicinal uses for dogs yet. Because it's sold as a natural supplement, you don't know what you're getting. So that can be really hard. Even if it did work, how would you know whether you're buying anything that's potent or too potent? Yeah, so I would just keep an eye on that flicker. I would think that if you get... Some dogs do end up in waiting mode. Have you done separation anxiety training? Because one thing that can happen as a consequence of doing the going backwards and forwards repeatedly is that they do start to get into waiting mode, because any minute now they're used to you coming back, because you start off coming back any minute now. But I'd watch it, because if it's nothing, or if it's not anxiety, you should see it change. Eventually he'll take himself to a bed. If it is anxiety, you might start to see other signs develop, potentially as he sensitizes it. Oh, I love this. Laurie says, thanks for all you've helped me with Ned. He can be left for 3 hours now. I love that. Thank you. You know, the funny thing is about working with dogs with separation anxiety in the online world is that people go quiet on me for good reasons. You often only, we're in the same world when there's a problem. And I love it when you come back and you say that things worked out, because otherwise it can seem like to other people that there aren't those successes. So I love that. Oh, Elodie, I can't wait to work with you. Elodie has signed up to my SA Pro Behavior Consultant program, and she's one of our first French students. So welcome. My dog has just had her second season. Oh, Emma, thank you. It's like, oh, you're making my day, everybody. Thank you for all your tips. Your app and all your tips have been a game changer for our poodle puppy. Yay, thank you. Oh, I needed to hear that today. Jane says, I was about to ask the same question. Ooh, which question? So Vicky, my dog is 4 years old now. We have had him since he was a puppy. I feel like I've tried everything, particularly the false leads, are gradually building up. There is improvement, but ultimately he can only tolerate 30 minutes. Do I need to get him trazodone from the vet? That has been suggested to me, but I don't want to drug him. Well, so my dog is going in for a dental tomorrow, and I am going to make sure that when he goes in for that dental, he's pretty zonked out, right? Because he hates having catheters put in. He's 13 and a half. Sedation is, anesthetic is, it's risky at his age. The more amped up he is when he has the catheter put in to do the blood tests and the anesthetic and all that, the more anesthetic he's going to need. So for me, tomorrow, if I give him pre-sedation medication, which I will before we leave home, while he's still nice and chilled, it's going to be better for him. But I don't want him to be like that every single day. Like if I go to the dentist, I want to be zonked out because I hate the dentist. Actually, I'm way better now, but I used to need that. The thing is that we need to remember that what anxiety medications can do when we use them appropriately in separation anxiety training is we're always trying to turn down the intensity of the fear, right? And we do that by doing those false leaves, as you call them. Small, non-threatening amounts of absences. 2 seconds, 10 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever it is, and we build up. But the other way we can change the intensity is to change the dog's response through anxiety medication. So if we can do both, all we're doing is we're helping the dog learn. We're helping the dog realize that that was okay. And so I hate that that lots of people, and you might have heard somebody else say this, Vicky, other trainers say, I don't want to drug dogs. Well, what if you're actually helping the dogs and we're helping dogs learn humanely? They're not zonked out. They are less anxious because they're given the right medication at the right dosage that just helps them tolerate the learning. Like, to me, that's helping them. That's not drugging them, or it's just helpful. And we know from research that that's the gold standard approach to helping dogs overcome fear. So let me see. Chris, yes, just do one thing. Honestly, don't. The books are great, and I'm really, thank you for the books are great. I mean, getting the books is great. I don't mean the books are great, but thank you. But do one thing, right? So you can spend a lot of time reading the books, but the most important thing is just do something. So I want you to give yourself a little goal this week. Just find 2 minutes. Actually, make it 4. Split it into 2 minutes and 2 minutes. Go to the section where it says how to get started with training in either book, and then follow the instructions, and then just set 2 minutes aside to do even 1 or 2 steps of the training, right? So 2 minutes to look at the section in the book, 2 minutes to do the training, 4 minutes. 4 minutes this week. That is all I want you to do. And then see how you get on, because sometimes it's just that first step. We just need to do that first step. Yes, honestly. And with some dogs, it's just, oh, Vicky, I was so hesitant years ago to put Percy on fluoxetine. And if I hadn't, I wouldn't be here today, because it changed his response to the training. And it made me realize that dogs can get over separation anxiety. So can you do it without medication? Yeah, you can. But if it can help and there's limited side effects, ask your vet about that for your own particular dog. Why wouldn't we do everything we could? Throw everything we can at this. You know, Nanette, you can do either. So yes, the thing is, do it when it works for you. Yes, ideally do it when you're going to be leaving him. But when you're working night shifts, your schedule's all over the place, right? And sleep patterns can be disrupted. It's tough. So the most important time is to train is when it's going to be right for you in your situation, because I think it's just like a lot of stuff going on. So it's okay to do it at a different time. And then when you build up some home alone confidence in him, and you've got the energy to do it when you come back from the night shift or whenever it is, do it then. Do the training then. So Len says, what's the name of the book? Just Google my name on Amazon and you'll get either Be Right Back, the original, which is kind of pink and blue, or you'll get the puppy book of me from many years ago. You know, Flick, I think 8 hours is a long time for your dog not to display anxiety if they were anxious. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for you. Okay, a few more questions. My voice is going. It's true. It's true. I wish that Deegan says, I wish there was a shortcut. Me too. I tell you, there's nothing in it for me to make this go any longer than it needs to for you. My number one goal for you is to take a process which I know works. It's been proven in science. You can read all about it. The last research report on it was from the end of 2021 that concluded desensitization is the way we get dogs to be okay with being left. But my goal for you is to take a process that can be long and make it as effective, as efficient as it can be for your dog. Because that's what we've got to aim for. Not quick fixes. Do you ever find yourself spending ages Googling, asking ChatGPT, asking Amazon for a quick fix? Right? Well, there's an irony in that, but we all do it in all of our lives. We spend a lot of time looking for quick fixes that don't exist. Oh, Vicky says, I even got another dog to keep him company, but that hasn't worked. But at least she is calm when I leave, so maybe he will learn from her. Hopefully not the other way around. Well, but you've got 2 dogs, and that's joyous. So, something good came out of that, even if it didn't fix the separation anxiety. Anthea says, when we leave, our dog runs to the window and can see us leave. So we only technically start the training when we walk past the window and out of sight, rather than the second we leave the door. Yeah, it is. So as long as you're consistent, so you know when you start the stopwatch, that's fine. Yeah. And as long as you know that in that time between you closing the door, plunk, and disappearing out of sight, you know your dog's okay in that time, then just start the stopwatch at the same point each time, Anthea. Hi, Laura. I have to say hi to Laura, one of our amazing graduates. Well, Jet's the graduate, Jet and Laura. Jet Whippet and I swung by to see how it's going. Not been here in a long time. She's still doing great. We still do top-up training. Yeah, this is great. And then just in case, but pretty much cured now, thanks to you. No, you did. Oh, my goodness, you did all the hard work. And thank you for popping back. I was just saying, it's so often people don't pop back to give us an update on how things are going. So thank you for the update on Jet. And yeah, keeping those absences going, definitely the right thing. Because we saw, didn't we, during lockdown, during quarantine 4 years ago, when dogs didn't experience being left. Yeah, so I love that you're doing that. Hi, Grace. Oh, Grace, come back and we can help you. Separation Anxiety Heroes is about to open, so get in touch Let's do this together. info@julienaismith.com. We'll get you sorted out. I get it. And the fear of, somebody once said to me, quite recently actually, sounds like a long time ago, but somebody said to me, I'm scared of starting the training because, I've tried everything else. What if this doesn't work? So there's always things in our way. There's always things that make us scared of getting started. But like I was saying, who was I saying it to a minute ago? Was it Vicky? No. I can't remember who I was saying it to, but Chris, I was saying, just do something really easy this week, Grace. Maybe the easy thing is come and join us in Heroes. Maybe it's, open the book again, dust something off, and just do one tiny thing this week, because it's the fear of not doing that's the biggest barrier. The doing it will feel easy once you do it. I promise. Oh, wow. Facebook memories brought me back here. Oh, Laura, that's great. Today is the 2-year anniversary of Jet reaching an hour for the first time. I love it so much. So, Anthea, that's great. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, the other thing you can try, if he panics the second you go out of sight, maybe just back off a little bit. It actually doesn't matter if they can still see you during the first part of the training. It's like it's something you can build into the training as them moving away out of sight. So see how you get on. Wow, so many questions. Hi, Kat. Yeah, so I had multi-dog issues, not because they were anxious at being left, one anxious being left, the other a howler outside stuff, the other a joiner inner. So I separated mine in the end. I separated mine because it's just such hard work. I love management. If we can manage a dog training problem, a dog behavior problem, by rearranging the environment, by changing stuff up, let's do that first. So I think for you, you're probably going to find it's less effort if you can separate them, work on things separately, Kat. Yay! Laura, you are so right. It's as good as any day. There's no day better than, yep, I love it. Yeah, I love this, Chris. I don't love that your dog gets stressed when you come back, but I love what you're doing. So when dogs are anxious that we're gone, the relief when we come back is just huge. And so that can lead to lots of arousal and lots of emotion. And the worst thing we can do is try and get that emotion down, that arousal down, by ignoring them. Like, try and ignore a bouncy border collie, right? Good luck to anybody who's ever achieved that. And I discovered that the hard way with my dog. So what I did is exactly what you do. I used to go and get him to get his ball. Go get your ball. Go get your toy. Because it did two things. It burnt off some energy. He's now got something to do. He's got a job. He's going to go and do that thing. 3 things, actually. So that's the number 1. Number 2, he's interacting with me. So I'm not ignoring him. He's interacting with me, but he's busy doing something and then coming back and then busy doing something. And 3, he then can't bark as loudly when he's got a toy or a ball in his mouth. So that was the cherry on the cake. Cherry on the icing. Is that right? I don't know. We are in the house. Right, I've got time I'm going to finish in 5 minutes. I think I can get through the remaining questions. Yeah, interesting that Deacon says I've tried everything from CBD oil, trainer, YouTube videos. Yeah. Yeah, I used to have to book Rover just to do groceries. Yes. Vicky. Hi, Vicky. Can I do the training first with door as a ball using the stair gate as we don't have an internal door? Yeah, if the stair gate is going to be a big part of your leaving routine, chances are you probably will need to do door as a ball. Gate as a ball, we call it. You can do, we have in Separation Anxiety Heroes, we have a method called anything is a ball. But the thing is, Vicky, if you close the gate, the stair gate, and your dog doesn't react, then you can forget about the stair gate. You can take it out of the equation. So if you can, go towards the main front door, close the stair gate on your way, get to the front door and your dog's not reacting, just focus on the door as a ball. At the main door, if the gate triggers them, then gate as a ball. Yeah, you nailed it. Oh, Grace. Listen, come back. You know we've got you covered. Yeah, do. It looks like it's closed at the moment, but drop us a line. We'll get you in. Emma says, my dog can be really inconsistent with the training. I sometimes think I'm winning. I had him up to half an hour alone in the past. And then next thing there's a regression where I'm literally not out the door for 2 minutes before he starts crying. I just can't work out if it's fear of missing out or not. How do you work out what FOMO? And it's genuine anxiety. So I did a long discussion at the start of this live session, Emma, where I basically said, if you're still asking yourself that question after a certain amount of time, chances are it's fear. If you want the long explanation, you can watch from, you can go back and watch the start when this is finished. But yeah, chances are it's fear. Inconsistency is learning. It's just learning. This is all learning for dogs. It's learning a new response to a situation. Sorry, excuse me. I need a cough switch. But you can, when you have those consistent days, the most important thing is to stop. Stop trying to go for the longer times. Immediately start to go for shorter times, and then try and work your way back up again. The thing that tends to trip us up is we try once too often to go for that time again. Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, oh, I had a bad day today. Okay, but I'll try it tomorrow. Oh, bad day tomorrow. Bad day today again. Oh, and then, you know, as soon as you think, yeah, this isn't going right, the best thing to do to get you back on track in the quickest way is to go back and do a much, much, much shorter time. Yes, Chris, do it. Just do it. I love it. Grace, drop us a line. Let's see if we can do something for you, because maybe you just want to test the water again. So yeah, let's get in touch and let's see what we can do to help. Okay, so for those of you who do want to work with me, Separation Anxiety Heroes is about to open. Get your name on the wait list if you want a place. January is notoriously busy. Meanwhile, I've got a dog who's telling me it's definitely time to go out. And if you are watching on replay and you've got this far, leave a question and I will get back to you. And Emma, don't apologize. It's fine. Absolutely fine. But I'm just saying, I only gave you a quick response to your question. But if you want more detail, you can just rewind in a second. Yeah, Pat. So I don't know if are you in our Heroes group, Pat? Because you will see that all the time. We have tons of dogs that go through that process. All right, so clearly it's time for walks in our house. I will catch you all later. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to working you this year. If you only do one thing, just do anything to get started on your separation anxiety training. Pick one tiny thing this week and get going. All right, I'll catch you all soon. Bye for now, everyone.